Once you're doing signings at Barnes and Noble and you're 15,
Yeah.
you're doing drugs pretty soon. Hardcore stuff.
I mean, that's how they close all the book signings. Is you go into the back room at Barnes and Noble and snort a line of coke off the spine of your own book.
Welcome to another edition of Rewatchers in the Sewer. This is your temporary host, because Mitchell is absent, Tyler McKinley. I'm here with my co-hosts.
Tyler Harris.
Justin Hammer.
And we watched a movie. We watched a movie like we do usually, and this time it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze.
We need to like normalize pronouncing the colons.
Especially when the word ooze is on the title.
Yeah. Colon ooze.
And wow, the one. Okay, so this is, for those not in the know, this is the second Ninja Turtles movie from the 90s. So 1991, I believe it was released. It was live action, actual live action. There's no CGI to be found in this film that I'm aware of, that I can think of. It was done by the Jim Henson Company, wasn't it? That did all the puppets.
Yeah.
So yeah, live action and puppets. So if you like either of those things, this is going to be the podcast for you. So to start us off, though, Tyler Harris has a wonderful summary.
Here we go. Everything that happened in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. It's New York. Hey, I'm Pizza here. April O'Neil should just subscribe to this pizza place's monthly plan for unlimited pizza. Kino is a pizza delivery guy who also tries his hand at nighttime vigilantism. Either entered these teenage turtles who are mutants. Mall fight. Michelangelo keeps asking a guy if he wants pickles for some reason. It was very disturbed by that. Raph is super New York, like Mario Plumber New York. Kino calls the police and the turtles are gone when he gets back. April O'Neil's neighbors are not fans of her noise. Did I mention that these mutant turtles are teenagers? However, they are true New Yorkers because they're constantly talking about how hard it is to find an apartment. Shredder totally died in the last movie. No Shredder here. Splinter tells them to never forget who they are and comforts April by telling her they won't be there long. Turns out Shredder is here. The Foot Clan regroups at the junkyard. Shredder wants revenge. April O'Neil interviews a 1991 representation of a 1980s scientist stereotype. TGRI is cleaning up, but they missed a few spots, and Shredder is looking to mop up the rest. Splinter meditates on his origins. TGRI Fridays holds the answer to the mutant teenagers' questions. Bowtie Bobby is disposing of the ooze. Then a foot steps on his good time. The teenagers have seemingly arrived too late. Lab fight, during which some very strange audio mixing choices were made. The foot has ooze. These teenagers need to move into their own place. April gets an unexpected pizza delivery. Kino meets the teenagers in Rat Dad. Everyone tries to out-exposition each other, and Kino talks about going undercover with the foot. Dr. Bowtie is performing ooze experiments under guidance from Shredder. The teenagers find a subway home. April O'Neil just won't let this news story go. Teenagers today really don't understand how payphones work. Shredder becomes a mama to two very strong dumb babies. Kino auditions for the Foot Clan. Raph helps Kino pass his test, and then they are immediately caught in 30 seconds after getting to Foot Clan headquarters. Kino escapes, and Raph is taken hostage. The other teenagers try to save him and get caught 30 seconds after entering the Foot Clan headquarters. But luckily Splinter saves the day, and the teenagers meet the dumb babies. Donnie saves Dr. Bowtie while Michelangelo gets some tummy time with the babies. The teenagers escape into the sewer, and the baby gets stuck in the manhole. The Foot Clan takes the babies out for a field trip. April grills the police commissioner and then gets foot-napped. April tells the teenagers Shredder wants to meet them at the flagpole after school. Dr. Bowtie has a plan. Demutation smoothies, of course! Now, Michelangelo has a plan, and it involves smoothie donuts, or the traditional pre-fight donut, as we all know know it by. Surprise, surprise, it doesn't work. Abandoned construction site fight. Holy shit, it's the Ice Baby himself, live and in concert. Kino meditates with Rat Dad, gets restless. Those teenagers go Ninja Go all over the place, but the Shredder shows up to stop Ninja Stop them. Dr. Bowtie slips out with the Ooze, the teenager Marty McFly Shredder, and then Shredder shreds himself into a Super Shredder as the teenagers remember they are amphibious, and Kevin Nash crushes himself under the pier. April O'Neil finishes the report with a very personal message: Cowabunga, dudes. That's all.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was feeling pretty guilty tonight showing up because I fell asleep watching this movie, and I was really worried. I was really worried that I'd missed a whole bunch of it. But based on that review, I think I only missed about 10 minutes, so I think I'm good.
Forgiven. I just want to get this out of the way at the top. Looking stuff up for this podcast, like going through the cast, I was like, Kevin Nash. And if you don't know who Kevin Nash is, he's a wrestler from the 90s, best known for going to WCW and founding the NWO. And he is the stand-in for super buff, drugged up Shredder at the end of this movie. And I'm pretty sure that was, I didn't look into the rest of his movie career, but I assume that was probably it. This is probably his best role. I don't know.
Man, I mean, I think any other trivia we drop tonight is not going to be quite as good as that.
It's true. It's true.
Man. Well, Justin, let's start with you since you're the expert at the table today.
Since you're a turtle
Since
virgin.
You know it so well, you were able to sleep through it.
I guess, yeah. I fell asleep right as Raphael gets captured, I think. No, right when they rescued him. So or whatever, the trap. They all get sucked up in the net, and there's a line about something there.
Ralph Nader.
Yeah, Ralph Nader. That was the line. Yeah, that's when I passed out. But then I woke up to Vanilla Ice, and that was really weird because it took me a second. Like, is that actually Vanilla Ice in it?
Which is probably what most people say when they're sleeping with Vanilla Ice. They're like, "Is this actually Vanilla Ice?" But maybe we can start there with the Ralph Nader joke because the comedy in this movie.
Wait, you want to start with the best part of the movie and work like back? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I guess the thing I love about this movie is it's the first movie, the movie I've seen the most in a long time that just doesn't give a shit. Mm-hmm. It really just is like, we know exactly what we're making, and we're not going to try and make anything else out of it. So with that, there's some weird comedy choices because I mean this is a movie clearly geared towards children, but there's a lot of like jokes that are like only adults would get, but they're delivered in a very dumb, like played down to children way.
Yeah.
So I'm like, who are you target? Like, who are you talking to here? I don't know.
It's us, the people 30 years later who were kids. And now
remember that Ralph Nader joke from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2?
I bet it's hitting them right about now. The whole time while they're being like, man, we're really playing the long game here. Those rental sales on Amazon. That's why it's not streaming anywhere for free.
It's actually hitting. They've manufactured this whole pandemic so that they could get Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 back into theaters. Like, how are we going to convince all these theaters to carry our movie from 30 years ago? Now that all the jokes will work.
It's like looking at the newspapers, like, we got to find a new apartment, but when this market, ooh, like. I'm like, I don't know if anyone in the theater laughed at that. But yeah, there's a lot of weird jokes like that. Just nonsensical, plot points, which is fine because of what this movie is. There's plenty of times where there's weird scene motivations, like the Foot Clan stealing the Ooze. They get it, but then they wait and hide until the turtles come back so that they can fight them. And then try and steal the Ooze back.
Yeah, he's a fickle man whose revenge and bruised ego takes precedence over all else, apparently.
Also, the Foot Clan has aged quite a bit since our last Oh, for those of you who don't know, there was a first movie. There was a movie before this one. Shocking, I know.
It was just called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, no colon. I'm also pronouncing the absence of colons.
It was all about how Shredder needed to get a colonoscopy and how he's going to lose his colon to cancer, but through the power of ninja.
And you learned that the only way you truly find your colon is by letting it go. Okay, anyway.
Turns out rats don't need colons. Yeah, I don't know. As far as the whole structure of the movie, it's very kind of all over the place. But Tyler, what was the highlight of all of the wonderful sequences that were presented to us?
Well, honestly, the only thing I think at the end of this movie was like, I wish that there were movies that were just fine to be this stupid now. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, because like thinking back on that, I was like, it's not like, I wouldn't call it a superhero movie, but it was like kind of as close as you were getting back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And like looking at what we have now, which is great, like whatever, they're fine, but like they're all so realistic and so like self-serious, and like this movie is just fucking dumb as shit, and it's like it almost like prides itself on that, and I like that, like the fact that they just find like a working subway house. I'm like, I don't give a shit why this place is abandoned. Like, but if this was a Marvel movie, it'd be like, this is where Shredder raised us originally, and it's like we're literally returning home. It's like, fuck you. Like, the thing I love about it is just like, cool, let's turn the lights on. And they have a new subway house. Yeah. And it's really cool. Okay, I watched this movie with my dad, and I was like, do you know what? Honestly, my favorite part about this movie is just how fucking cool that place seems. And like, my dad was like, and my dad had brought it up as we were watching it, as they were looking for their house. It's like, if this was like every other movie in New York, they'd just find a subway house. And I was like, that's exactly what they do. And then he was like, do you know what? This is the subway house that I was remembering when I made that joke originally. And I was like, it's because it sticks in your mind. It's a beautiful place.
It's pretty sweet. It's kind of got like a Goonies vibe to it. Like,
yeah.
That cool. I mean, that's something I mean, maybe this is nostalgia speaking, or I am just biased, but like, there's something about, and I think I've said this before on the podcast, like 90s movies of having that realism, like the fact that there's actually sets there and stuff, and they just went bonkers on sets in the 90s, and everything just feels so tangible and real. And so it just feels like a cool place to like, that you could find with your friends to hang out in. I mean, I remember thinking that place was awesome as a kid. As an adult now, the first thing I thought of was, you guys are going to get found pretty quick. But...
the power company will find you. They are going to know there's some extra kilowatts going missing. And they're just going to pull on the thread. It's a literal thread that's bringing up this stuff to you, yeah.
But, yeah, the comment about it being possibly, like, having some greater meaning to it, I think, made me think of how the title of this movie literally has no bearing on this story.
You find out the secret of the Ooze almost immediately.
Is it a secret?
Splinter's like, that's the Ooze. And they all go, oh.
But there's like one scene in that train where they're like, oh yeah, the Ooze is just like, you know, the stuff the audience already knows.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, I wish it was more like God or something. And
God was Ooze.
And then that's it. There's nothing they like have to like. They don't have to like come to terms with that to like learn how to beat Shredder or like save New York or anything. It's just, oh, here's some information being passed along. And so yeah, it's just this total not caring about anything other than we need to make some money and just have a shit ton of fun.
Yeah.
Like making a movie.
Well, and like part of that too, like I was thinking about this kind of in terms of like modern movies as well, is like there's all these reboots, there's all these like adaptations of stuff, and it's always like, we know everyone already knows stuff, so we're gonna save like this one big reveal for the end, which is like the thing they actually want to see, which if we're making a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, the tag at the end is gonna be Tails, and you're gonna see him for 2 seconds, but we're not gonna put him in the rest of the movie. Like, this movie, if it was made now, like Shredder quote unquote dies at the end of the first one. Spoiler alert, which you already spoiled if you watch this movie, but whatever. And like, he is revealed like halfway through the first act to be alive again. Like, they don't feel the need to let that sit and like spring it on you at some point. It's just like, here it is. And there's no like big twist at the end of this movie. There's no big reveal. It just ends. And that also felt really nice. Like, because I definitely don't want to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 ever again. So it's like nice to know I didn't have to. But yeah, anyways, just in terms of like modern movies and where this movie fits, I actually appreciated that. And I told Justin this last night. I was like, this movie is not as bad as I remember it being from when I watched it a few years ago. And I think it's probably because I watched the first one and then immediately watched the second one.
Did I watch those with you? Because
can't
while
remember.
watching this, I'm like, this seems actually really like fresh in my memory, and I can't remember the last time I watched it.
It might have been. It was probably around it was at some point when we were living in the same apartment, I'm pretty sure. So, but yeah, and I still feel like the first one is like stronger, and it's really dark in like weird ways, and the puppets look way better.
Yeah.
But that, like, without seeing that immediately before going into this one, I was like, puppets are whatever.
Yeah.
They're fine.
I think, I mean, minus their heads,
Yeah.
I think they look pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I think just looking at like their bodies as they're walking around and stuff, I'm like, oh wow, that's actually like pretty impressive. That almost like it doesn't look quite like I would be able to tell it was a costume, but like it's a really good one.
You wouldn't think it was a giant turtle man, a real turtle man.
I mean, I did when I was a kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was like,
too,
where the fuck did they find them?
This is a casting director's dream.
Can you imagine?
I don't want to.
Ninja Turtles. One walks in the fucking door.
I'm here to read for Raphael.
We can speak, so this is going really well for me. And I could probably pay you in pizza.
Can you ratchet up your New York accent 400%?
He might be.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I feel like everyone else was a teenage turtle, but like Raph was easily in his 30s. He's like a 36-year-old turtle. Hey, I'm losing. I can still hear out of that one. I mean, everyone knows I lost hearing the other one working at the motor facility, and now you're crunching. What a nightmare.
I think I got a little too heavily existential watching it this time. I was like,
if you were at all, I think, yeah, it's probably
the scene where they're talking about like when Donnie's just like super distraught. He's like, man, my origin story sucks ass. And like, I'm like, holy shit. They're literally like an endangered species right out of the gate. Like,
true.
They're the only ones of their species, and they're like, once they're dead, it's done. Let that sink in, Donatello.
Yeah, because they can't be fertile, right?
There's
no way.
What? I mean, I guess some amphibians can like do that thing where they either switch or do it with themselves, but like,
yeah,
I don't think turtles are on that list.
Yeah, I don't know. We're getting into Marvel territory here. These are questions that would have been answered.
I think this is Jurassic Park territory, but I couldn't but think like I was like, damn this. Then I thought about that like I don't know, it's not necessarily a meme, but the like comic that I've seen posted a lot of like them when they're children walking with Splinter, and then him like being a decrepit old rat, and they're like guiding him seemingly to his grave, and yeah, it's like, I mean, yeah, I can see that being a bummer, and like at least Mikey's attracted to human women. So that lies a whole nother complication there.
Yeah, what was it about the 90s and like anthropomorphized animals being like, there's like this interspecies relationship stuff going on with things in the 90s. It makes me feel kind of weird.
Yeah, Howard the Duck.
Lola Rabbit.
Lola Bunny. Good grief.
Jessica Rabbit. I mean, if we want to talk even just cartoons, we can get into the Cool World hole again. Jesus Christ. Yeah. What a time. I mean, it's this is my theory. I'm like trying to decide if I want to put this on there. I'm trying to decide if I want to put out a theory that I've obviously spent more than 10 minutes thinking about. So there wasn't.
Well, you got it now. You
I
started.
can't even bring myself
You
to do it. Internet pornography was so much less available back then. People were like, we gotta find some way to get this in. Like, we gotta let the pressure off a little bit. You know what I mean? We gotta turn the valve just a little even. So I'm gonna animate Lola Bunny at my animation job for 50 hours a week.
I mean, like, you might not be wrong there. That's the Rescuers Down Under when they're throwing those boobs on the TV in the background. It's like,
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
like
that stuff's
kids
insane.
need wanking material.
Oh god,
We're doing them a favor. We gotta get it to them.
what a time. So yeah, that's probably where horny Michelangelo came from. I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know.
But the turtles, they're tragic. Anyway, Justin, I wanted to hear what your favorite part of this movie was.
I mean, honestly, it was the dance scene that I woke up to, seeing Vanilla Ice dance and Go Ninja Go at the end. That whole just club dance, everything. And then they all bust out the like synchronized dance moves at the end together.
I was watching with Katie. I'm like, do you think that they had the same doubles doing the martial arts parts in the suits? Were they the same people doing the dance choreography in the suits? And did they know that going in that they were going to have to do that?
I don't know.
I
didn't see it.
Think.
I don't know. I gotta look at the credits again.
There were multiple doubles
Yeah.
I saw, but most of them were like martial arts doubles for them. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure. Ernie Reyes Jr. is in the credits as doing all his own stunts.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, Ernie Reyes Jr. literally kicks some ass.
Whoever, I don't remember who actually played the turtles. Like who was in. I don't remember reading it in the
'cause
credits.
there was
or
like the
anything,
voices, and there's like
Yeah.
the bodysuit, and
Yeah.
there's the combat doubles.
Kudos to those actors, I guess. Yeah, you call them
yeah.
actors. Like, for how being in a suit and acting cannot be easy, and like to do something where you have to be as quirky and goofy and work in a suit that has like an animatronic face on it with eyes and everything like that. That's not easy, I expect. And they all nailed it. Like I felt like the four turtles themselves, whoever was doing the acting for that, those guys did a really great job of just like showing, I don't know, camaraderie. Like, I don't know what the right word is, but it felt authentic, and I liked that. It was cool.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, there are like joke moments where it feels a little like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like it's just. But like their interactions, while annoying, don't feel like disingenuous at all. Like it does feel like a like brotherly weird relationship, and
Yeah, I think that's good.
It doesn't feel like the suits, like, for as janky as they look sometimes, it doesn't feel like that like got in the way of them doing their stuff.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Which is amazing because they look like they'd be super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine wearing that all day? I'm amazed that like the animatronic faces timed up with their body like acting. I don't know how they did that.
yeah,
If there's some guy
that's true. I did not think about
behind camera with like a remote control,
God.
trying to time his facial things with like the words being said.
Yeah.
Maybe I wonder if they're already programmed in per shot, and they have to try and like match their body to the.
That'd be interesting. That'd be an interesting shooting process because it all of a sudden becomes much more rigid if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like you don't have like the freedom to just be like, oh, let's try something a little bit different. It's like, that'll take me 8 hours to program.
Like Seth Rogen gonna do this movie.
Or Will Ferrell. Anyone who's in a comedy in the 2000s.
If those guys were the turtles, oh my gosh!
I actually would love to see. Okay, dream casting of the Turtles.
Oh,
Just
shit.
jumping on from here. Will Ferrell, if he's in there, gotta get me some John C. Reilly. Tim Meadows and Tim Heidecker. Those are my Turtles.
These turtles are all just got like 5 feet taller.
They're all really jaded about life.
Is John C. Reilly Raph? Is that? It has to be, right?
Yeah, but as Dr. Steve Brule. I'm a Brad boy.
Um, I
Just real quick, something else that was kind of cool. This I watched this movie with May and Tier today, which for the movies we've been watching, like my kids have not been watching movies with us, obviously.
Right.
But I was like, yeah, you guys go watch this movie today, and immediately, like right off the bat, it's really interesting. It's like anytime there's like any sinister music or anything, they both like put their hands up over their ears, like they've already been
They're,
trained to like
ready.
recognize like something weird is going to happen. But then it's like this movie has so much like ridiculous stuff where it's like leading up to something terrible, but then it's actually hilarious what happens. And this was a fun movie to watch with my kids. After they watched it, they went down in the basement and played Ninja Turtles with each other, which was really cool.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be in their vocabulary now, which is going to be fun.
Cowabunga.
Yeah.
Man, so I wanted nothing more than to be a Ninja Turtle, like when I was a kid. Like that was my thing for my first 6 years of life.
Yeah.
Like there were other things involved in there. I would have dabbled. I would have loved to spend some time as Batman, be Luke Skywalker occasionally, but I really just wanted to be a giant turtle. And I can remember my earliest dream that I can ever remember in my life was when I was 5 years old. I remember having a dream where, because those Toka and Razor, the snapping turtle and the wolf mutants, scared the shit out of me as a kid. I remember in the dream, I got in the car with my dad, and Toka and Razor were in the back seat. And I turned around, I'm like, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, oh, we're not really here. And that was when my brain like first started like trying to like grasp the concept of surrealism. But that was the first dream in my life I can ever remember having, and it was because of this movie.
That's amazing. So one of my first Halloween costumes I remember was Raphael from the Ninja Turtles, and my grandpa sewed me a shell. Like it was like a big and it was made from like leather couch material.
Oh my goodness.
And like velcroed onto my back, and I painted my like every uncovered part of my body green and wore the red bandana and had like plastic sai that I carried around. And it's like, it's hard when you peak that early in life. You know what I mean? It's a long journey down.
Okay, so I think we need to have this conversation. Favorite turtle?
I mean,
I guess did you watch Ninja Turtles as a kid, Justin?
At my friend's house.
Did you have a favorite as a kid?
Probably Raphael, but I didn't know enough about them to really say for sure. He was just like, he was the coolest one automatically, but
mine was Raphael when I was younger, when I first started watching, but then when I grew up a little more, it was Donatello.
I was gonna say Donatello is probably my favorite now.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a high opinion of myself as a child. My favorite was Leonardo because I liked the color blue, and he had swords, and swords were the coolest weapon in that show, in my opinion.
And you also love rules.
If anyone knows me,
I just made a hilarious joke.
That's why it's so weird that I it was so like into that, I guess. I don't know. And I just remember being like, I didn't like Raph because he was so mean. And I didn't like Donatello because he was a nerd. And so obviously I was a great human being.
You fucking nerd turtle.
But I like Leonardo and Michelangelo because I'm like, he's super funny. And like, but yeah, what a weird thing to rewatch this now. Like that was so much of like, I breathed that as a kid. Yeah. And there's an interesting documentary, actually. The Toys That Made Us, they did a season 2, and they do Ninja Turtles, and it goes through like the whole comic history. It's super interesting.
Yeah. They're like still making comics, and every time I see like spreads from like recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics, I'm like, I might need to buy some comics, because they're like, some of the art that they do is really weird, like really different and pretty rad.
Yeah.
And they also did a run where they were hanging out with Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
I mean, honestly, the Batman universe in the comics is really fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's not that that crazy to throw them in there. Tone-wise it is, but I guess, but the original comics were actually very dark. They were very short, too. just this, I don't know, the story of it's pretty stressful. Like this guy, like there's this, what are they like? I don't know what you'd call them, like their publisher or something. I don't know. He wanted to be like their manager. The two guys who wrote the comic. He's like, I'm gonna get you like publishing rights and deals and everything. Let me like represent you. He didn't have any like experience or licenses or anything, and he just went and tried to make appointments with all the toy company like boards, and he just would try and set, and he like the few that he got in, he said like that he immediately got laughed out. And one of their friends had made like a giant stuffed turtle. One of them, so he's like, I need that, and he like took it with him to the meetings and like brought it in, and like he was just driving with that in the back of his car. He said for like that was his life, was just driving around trying to get someone to listen to him. And I can't remember how eventually it worked out, but he eventually just randomly got into somebody who told somebody else, someone in power had seen the thing, and they're like, oh, you need to make that, and
That's awesome.
then it just became a huge thing. But
I remember having like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures when I was younger that would morph into just normal turtle men. Like it was like one of those things where like the shell would open up and the head would flip around, and it's like all of a sudden you don't know which one it is because there's no bandana. And like thinking back on that, I'm like, was that a thing? I don't remember ever seeing them like without their bandanas on or whatever. But
in the cartoon, they would sleep without
cool.
them on.
Oh, that's true.
And
that's true.
I remember seeing them without on. Like it felt like I was invading like a level of privacy that I shouldn't have been.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. So they wanted you to be able to play them sleeping as well.
Yes. They had so many of those toys. I had a ton of them. They got some weird licenses. They had Star Trek ones.
Wow.
Like at my mother's house, I believe I still have Donatello as Spock. That
is amazing.
They only have 3 fingers, so he's
just
doing
all
this.
Of them up?
Yes. And it's incredible. He's got the pointy ears, and he's got the haircut and the Star Trek uniform.
I hope that's where it started. They're like, listen, they can do live long and prosper easier than anyone else. Why aren't we doing this?
But I mean, this franchise got big enough that they got Vanilla Ice to write an original
Vanilla
song.
Ice, we need to clarify too. Vanilla Ice in 1991.
I mean, we watched
just the hottest ice ever got.
We're watching 2 movies very close to each other where there's guest rappers playing themselves.
Right. Black Swan had
don't worry about that.
Talking about The Weeknd from
So we
right, yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you classify The Weeknd as a rapper, actually.
I don't know.
No.
I mean, a pop star. You could argue that you wouldn't classify Vanilla Ice as a rapper.
Dude, I don't know. I got Ice Ice Baby stuck in my head, so I listened to it the other day. I was like, this shit is fire. No wonder it did so well. Like, those verses, man. I mean, the chorus is annoying as hell, but those verses, man. Like the mic, like a holy shit. But the scene's incredible because they're literally fighting in an abandoned warehouse. And if the 90s taught me anything, people who know martial arts exclusively hang out in abandoned warehouses. And they bust through a wall, and apparently Vanilla Ice, like you said, huge act at the time, is just doing a concert in the middle in this like abandoned shed. And then these giant, so much like the casting director situation, actually kind of the opposite. The turtles bust in, they're like, shit, these costumes are lit. And Ice, being the great, improvisational artist that he is.
Right. I mean, he's been doing it his whole career. Oh, I'm a metal artist now? Sure.
Sees these humanoid turtles fighting a giant snapping turtle and a wolf, and he's like, I got it. This is clearly ninja-esque martial arts, so here's a song. And a song that he eventually just loops because it's gonna last that long.
Yeah.
But I mean, but seriously, they did get a Vanilla Ice to write and appear in. I don't know how much that cost them.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I feel like that's if it might be Vanilla Ice's second
It
biggest
is.
song.
I was gonna
right?
say, when I was played Ice Ice Baby on Spotify, that's
the
his
next
number
one?
2. Is
Yeah.
Go Ninja,
Not surprised.
Go Ninja,
Not
Go.
surprised.
Actually, I think it's just called Ninja Rap.
He really thought it was gonna go places. Just call it fucking Ninja. Send it. Just send it.
But then it's a reference. There's the last line in the movie, in this fourth wall breaking moment of Splinter being like, he's like, okay, let's talk about Shredder, this asshole. Not Shredder. Gosh, Splinter.
Splinter, yeah.
Gosh. So Raph is goofing around. He's leaning out April's window, and Splinter's like, "You dumbass, you're going to be seen. Let's go talk on the roof." And so he keeps breaking his own damn rules. Don't ask me where he got that bow and arrow, like, that's perfectly his little size.
I mean, that was the big reveal of this movie. Is everyone in the first movie was like, so they have like a sword, a bow staff, a sai, nunchucks. What is Splinter's weapon of choice? And we got to learn in this one a fucking bow and arrow.
It's like this, all red.
Yeah.
It literally looks like it's made out of plastic. He stopped by the Toys R Us on the way over.
The most honorable weapon. You can shoot somebody from afar. And they'll never see you.
Plastic arrows. Yeah, but then at the end he's like, "So, were you guys seen coming back?" They're like, "Nah, man, it's cool." And he's like, "Well, here's the newspaper and your picture's on it at a club with Vanilla Ice."
Why didn't you fucking call me? We have phones down here. We flip the switch. Everything's on.
Now go do your flips and go ninja, go. And then he like just says to the audience, "Oh, I made another," because he finished the last movie with a joke. So now he's referencing the previous movie, which is something I do in my life. I break up my life into these chapters.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I got to make a reference to the previous installment.
That's why I keep making the same mistakes over and over, so
shit.
that people know it's me. I don't want him to become so unfamiliar from my character.
You're better than my therapist. I tell them this shit and they're like,
You need a new therapist. I think it's
they're like, man, maybe you should try Animal Crossing. It's working for everyone else.
gosh. Wow.
Can I get your therapist's name?
So I can follow them on
I'm in the
Twitch,
market.
apparently.
What's their live stream schedule?
Oh yeah, no, XQC is my therapist. It's just-
Sign me up.
Oh, man.
That guy makes my life look good.
I mean, after the past few months, I think all of them make our lives look pretty good.
Oh, man.
Man, how do we get here?
Oh, something about turtles.
Man, I should host all the time. Okay. Oh, well, does anyone have any other deep, remarkable thoughts about The Secret of the Ooze?
I had forgotten that the Turtles were really into football. Like that was a part of their
don't know
part
if-
of their thing.
That's a thing in any other... I think that's like they're teenagers. Teenagers play
yeah.
football in the house. I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless that's a thing. Do you recall that being a thing in any of the other
I don't. No,
installments?
I don't. But yeah, the football stuff happened
Yeah,
a lot.
I totally
in this
didn't
movie.
really register that. That's in a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
kind of
one
like The
scene.
Room. This movie is kind of like The Room. More football than you'd expect. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. That Ralph Nader joke fucking floored me. I was laughing so hard. I was like, really? But I mean, he was hot shit back then. I will say, I will argue, if you look at Ralph Nader and Vanilla Ice's careers post 1991, you see a similar trend. Mostly it's because I think Ralph Nader at some point died in the same way that Vanilla Ice's career did. But I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
Ralph Nader might be alive still. I have no idea.
I actually have no idea either.
Didn't even Google him.
Oh, I mean, I did have some Ernie Reyes Jr. trivia I forgot to drop.
Because we didn't talk enough about Ernie Reyes Jr.
We
It was
didn't.
Fucking delightful.
Integral part of this
Yeah.
film. I mean, honestly, when this movie started, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then he just drops that brutal line on that girl who shuts him down. And I was like, I am invested now. It's on this girl, like total like epitome of the nice guy, right? Like, oh, you rejected me? Well, you're fat. Like, then drives away on his moped.
Welcome to your new friend, Kino.
I was like, are we supposed to like this
kid
guy?
around.
In the 90s, we were supposed to like this guy. I don't know if we're supposed to like this guy now. Anyway, my real experience with Ernie Reyes Jr., besides Surf Ninjas and obviously The Secret of the Ooze, is in the mid-2000s, he hosted a reality show on MTV called The Final Foo. And it was a martial arts reality show where they had martial artists come on and compete in competitions against each other, and the show would always end with a sparring match between two of them. And sounds great. I mean, it is, but the challenges were like only one I remember is like in an abandoned warehouse.
Of course.
They had all these like boxes around just on the floor and everywhere, and there were these like those like 500-gallon barrels, like the metal ones turned on their side, and basically they gave them a stick, and they're like, you gotta like hockey launch these boxes into the barrels. I'm like, yes. The martial arts training that we all remember. And I just couldn't help but think, like, because some of these people were like legitimate like martial artists. Like some of them had won. I mean, none of them were in the UFC or anything, I don't think. But they were more like, they weren't mixed martial artists. They were like very focused in one of their fields. And I just can't imagine going. One girl left, I remember, by choice. She was like, I don't like how the sparring's being handled, was her excuse. And she got out of there.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't imagine anyone like the martial arts world outside of that show was like, oh, you won the Final Foo? Senpai.
You were the Final Foo?
And yeah, it lasted one season.
Fair enough. It really was. I mean, it was there in the title the whole time. We've got one last Foo, people. That's all we've got.
The Final Foo 2 sounds pretty good, though.
Final Foo 2.
They like the
Final
narrative.
Foo: 2. I mean, Ernie Reyes Jr., like an established martial art, like a pretty decorated martial artist. I did find a YouTube video of him when he was like 13 winning a kickboxing competition or something. Like, not everyone does that at 13. I mean, we all did too, but, you know, still impressive.
I couldn't do martial arts when I was growing up because it would have made me too violent, according to my mom.
I believe that about you.
So I played video games instead.
And now you're the least violent person I know. I only know like 4 people, and all of them are on this podcast.
4 violent people?
No, just 4
Can you
people.
rank the other ones? I want to hear who the...
Yeah,
who's-
so you're the least violent, and then Gwen
Gwen.
is after that, and then Tyler's after that, and I've seen Mitchell watch The Bachelor, so he is the most violent person I know.
Mitchell is situationally violent. You get him into some serious, like, you know, and by serious I mean petty drama. He will throw hands.
But yeah,
But he also watches a lot of sports, so you know how he knows how to hit hard.
exactly. He's dangerous. He's violent and dangerous.
Unstable, some might say.
Thanks, Mitchell.
Well, I think that we have, really delved into the deeper parts of this movie, dissected it, and come away better people for viewing The Ooze.
Yeah.
Are there any final thoughts before we depart?
I don't think so. Let us become the departed.
Okay, well, Tyler, you want to tell us what we're watching next week and where the good people can find us if they want to talk about things like The Ooze or you know, how violent we are?
Yeah, if you want to email us about the violent ranking, you'll notice I didn't put myself on the list because I want to remain an enigma to our listeners.
Follow us on Instagram for our tier list.
So you can email us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter or Instagram at rewatcherspod. And next week, we're kind of bending the rules of our own game because we are the masters of our own fate. And we're just going to watch another Ernie Reyes Jr. movie, a classic, I might say, that has already been name dropped on this podcast, Surf Ninjas. Fans of early Rob Schneider probably know this movie. Fans of very late Leslie Nielsen probably know this movie. And by God, there's a Game Gear in it, so we're going to watch it. I don't know where you can find it. We will be searching as well, but it's streaming somewhere.
I thought you
I'm
meant
sure.
for a Game Gear.
Oh, yeah, no. Game Gears you can probably find on eBay for very cheap at this point. But yeah, we're going to watch Surf Ninjas. It'll be a rollicking good time.
Sweet. Well, stay tuned for some recommendations after this. But this has been Rewatchers on the Pod. I am Tyler McKinley.
Tyler Harris.
Justin Hammer.
Did we sign off before recommendations?
No, but it's fine. We'll sign off again. Whatever.
And welcome back to Rewatchers on the Pod. Recommendations. We don't normally sign off beforehand, but why the hell not? when Mitchell's not here, we're going to break all the rules. There's no one here to enforce them.
But Tyler, you love the rules.
Oh, Mitchell, please come back. All right. So let's start off with Justin Hammer. Do you got any recommendations for the people listening?
Yeah, just real quick. I talked a little bit, I think last week I brought this up, maybe? I don't remember. Gwen and I are playing through The Last of Us 2 together. Did I talk about this last week? Do you remember? I don't want to repeat myself.
I don't think so.
I don't think you talked
Okay.
about it on the podcast. We've talked about it.
Yeah,
but-
we talked about it outside of that. But just as a recommendation, obviously we have delved into The Last of Us 2 quite a bit with our own podcast and everything. Playing it as a couple has been really fun. Something that I wasn't really expecting that we would end up doing together. But I sat Gwen down, gave her the controller, and was like, here, play this. And about 20 minutes into the game, which is when you actually like start playing the game, she gave the controller back to me, and she's like, you play this and I'll watch. And so that's what we've done since then. We just got to the part where Ellie and Dina get to the theater for the first time, so we go inside, and yeah, that's where we're at right now. And it's been really cool. Tyler Harris and I were talking last night, I think, about this a little bit, how it kind of feels like there's sort of like a larger group of people who are experiencing The Last of Us 2 specifically together as couples or friends or whatever. Like, I don't know what it is about this game specifically. Maybe it's because it's more, it's how do I put this? Like, there's more to watch instead of play in this game.
Sure.
So it's easier for somebody sitting next to you to actually like be engaged while you're going through the game. But yeah, if you're interested in it, you're not somebody who plays video games, find somebody who does play and check it out and watch it, because it's been really fun. So there's that. And then just real quick, I in the last couple of days have listened to Brand New's science fiction album, like, I don't know, 6 times.
Shit. All right, here we go. We're going to another 3-hour podcast.
I listened to it when it came out, and I loved it. I've listened to it off and on since then. I've just been in that mood the last few days for this album
The
again.
suicidal mood?
Because
Because that's how I describe this album, is just a suicide note in musical form.
It's kind of how it feels like. I don't know. It's so good. I
is
love
really
this
good.
album. If anybody hasn't checked it out, it came out in 2017, I think. And as somebody who I didn't really listen to a lot of older Brand New stuff, I've kind of like come to them more recently. But this album is fantastic. So go check it out. Listen to it multiple times. You'll probably want to. It's really good.
Yeah, what's your favorite song on there?
Oh man, I mean, "Lit Me Up" is real good.
Man, yeah.
I don't know.
Which is so cool because it's like just a bass, isn't it,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
back? And
yeah.
just
There's something about that intro to it. Like, I feel something awaken inside of me when it starts. I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing for the next like 46
Yeah.
minutes. Or however long
Wikipedia
something is.
dives into
Yeah.
government conspiracies.
Oh god, yeah.
There's that one. I can't remember the title of the one where he's singing from the perspective of like a like super conservative
Yeah.
father.
Oh yeah.
That one is really good too. And even though like, I mean, we could talk about this more in depth, but holy cow, it's really good.
I love that album. I'll go next. I actually also participated in The Last of Us 2 with my wife. But I did differently. I replayed it through, I captured it, and then I edited it together. And holy shit, it's hard to play a video game and make it look cinematic while you're playing it, especially when your instincts tell you to just run at the walls to look for stuff. But yeah, so that took a while to do. I don't recommend doing that. If you can find your friends or significant other to just play it with you, that's the better way to experience it anyway. But yeah, it was 64 gigs and it fit perfectly on my 64-bit jump drive at the end. So I got lucked out there. But yeah, no,
what greater satisfaction can you get out of life at this point? Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it extensively for a long time on an episode of the podcast, and I think this is the piece of media that has made me almost think the most without being overly metaphorical, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you can talk about things that are like very out there and like very symbolic, and there's symbolism in this game, of course, but there's a lot of on the surface stuff and a lot of real world applicable stuff, I think, too. And we talked a long time after it was done. And yeah, just really good conversations that start from that game. Then I have also been playing a video game that I've spent way too much time on. It's called Other Side. And this is a tactical RPG, but it's all battle system based. And I don't get too much into the tactical turn-based stuff too often, but for some reason this one looked interesting to me. It's got a very cool black and white and red art style. Kind of also in the art style, it's kind of wow, I forgot his name last time I hung out with you guys, and now I'm forgetting it again. Author, weird stuff. Tentacle face, Cthulhu. Lovecraft.
Oh yeah.
There's some Lovecraftian stuff in there. It kind of feels like a little bit of like some Dark Souls art mixed with Lovecraftian stuff, kind of Bloodborne-esque too. But then also mixed with the art style of something like I don't remember anything apparently. The PS4 indie game where you got the big sword that's alive. There's like a soul trapped inside Transistor, yeah. And so basically the premise of the game is there's like this like plague or evil force that's, just destroyed the world essentially. There's this woman who's just this super badass who's there's this like cursed child she's trying to save. The story's a little like convoluted a bit. I'm definitely not playing it for that. I mean, there's interesting stuff to it, but basically, she gets killed at the beginning, but somehow her life force continues on, and she's able to she becomes this like god essentially, the spirit, and she's able to like generate like fragments of herself as her daughters, and your units are all her daughters. So basically, you start out with like 3, and you can birth new daughters. And they are all in different classes because they're all like parts of her. So that like there's like a tank, there's a ranged one, there's a sword, the one that does DPS and stuff. And basically you go over the series of these days. Each level's like a day, and you play through those days. There's like different missions each day, and then you try and work your way towards the boss at the end of like each era. And so I think there's like 5 or 6 bosses. I've only beaten 2. The third one is killing me. But basically every time you run out of daughters, you have to start over again. But you get all your resources from the game. But then there's like this interesting thing where there's no healing in this game. So the only thing you can do is if you have another daughter of equal level or higher, you can sacrifice that one and give health to a previous one. And they also absorb some, because like as they survive more and more missions, they start to get more stat buffs, just like traits. But then you can also like attach different things to them. There's like lots of cool systems involved, lots of cool like decisions you have to make. Once you beat a boss, you unlock some items that make like the next run through easier. You can like eventually get some items that make you skip a whole era. Really, really cool systems. I live for that shit. Very tedious. But there's something about this game that makes it worth it for me. So if you like turn-based RPGs and cool art styles and
I just want to call it, like we just talked about this movie about turtles forever, and you used the phrase like 3 or 4 times, like birth new daughters as a video game mechanic, and me and Justin didn't bat an eye. That wasn't even like interesting. Traits, you say? Sacrifice, you say?
But yeah, no, I like. So right now it's $40, which I think I would suggest, unless that sounds like something you absolutely need, I would say probably wait until it's like 30. I think it's definitely in that realm.
Who's the dev team behind it?
Focus Entertainment, I think.
What else? What else have they done? Do you know?
I think they might just be the publisher though.
Okay.
I was gonna say Focus is pretty big.
Yeah, so they're. I can't remember even who the dev.
Which is like an indie group that's.
I think it was one of those indie ones that just got like funding from Focus. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Interesting.
That's all I got. Tyler, you got any good recommendations?
Yes. So this month I came into possession of a lot of new movies that are very old. I've been watching a lot of old Godzilla movies, and more recently, I just got Criterion just put out a Bruce Lee collection. This is like his 5 of his movies, and I've been watching those, and they're really fun. I haven't even gotten to the good ones yet. What I would term the good ones. I've just watched Big Boss, which is fine.
Yeah, the Ice Factory one, is that one?
Yeah. And that's kind of like he was kind of a small focus in that movie, honestly. But that was like the movie where everyone was like, that movie was okay, but that one guy, holy shit. And they're like, okay, new movie idea. He's the guy. And they made a movie called Fists of Fury, which is an extremely anti-Japanese fucking nightmare of a movie that actually caused, like, Bruce Lee never worked with that director again because of the sentiments and stuff. Anyways, there's some great fight scenes in that. I can't remember if I was telling you or Truman this last night, but there's a scene, one of my favorite scenes in like a kung fu movie is just where it's just an all-out melee between everyone, and the camera's just slow panning past like all the different groups of fighters, and it's this really fluid thing. And they do that in like the courtyard of this building in this movie, but when the camera gets to the door to go inside the house, all of a sudden everyone runs from the courtyard into the house and continues their just all-out brawl, and it's one of the most hilarious and like cool things I've seen. But it's really good.
Doesn't he kick the main bad guy like 300 feet
yes.
through the wall?
Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
end?
I mean, that's standard stuff. But Bruce Lee is great. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know him personally. I don't know. Maybe Bruce Lee wasn't, but like, man, what a magnetic dude, like on screen, and fucking fun to watch.
Did you watch Game of Death? Yeah.
I have not watched Game of Death yet. I'm excited to watch it because I've never watched the entire thing. And I think at this point in my life, kind of knowing as much as I do about that movie and like how it was made, I'm really interested to see what works and what really doesn't in that movie, because I'm sure there's a lot of both. But yeah, so I've been watching that. I also played a video game. I played Super Hot Mind Mind Control Delete.
Super Hot Colon.
Super.
We'll never not laugh at colon jokes on this podcast.
Oh gosh. But it's a sort of sequel to an amazing game called Super Hot, where the main premise of the game is that it's a first-person game where your enemies or time only moves when your character is moving. So you get to pull off some really cool John Wick-esque action in Super Hot. And Mind Control Delete is It's weird. It's not a sequel. It's like a continuation in a way. I think that the devs have said that this is kind of what they pictured the more polished version of Super Hot being, which to me is like Super Hot was kind of polished in its simplicity of what it was. But this adds a lot more mechanics and kind of like procedurally generated stuff that's really interesting. And it's a game where it's like, I played a ton of Super Hot. So when I started playing Super Hot: Mind Controlled Elite, I was like, fuck yeah, this will be fun. I'll be done in 4 hours because this is in my bones at this point. And then something happens and you're like, and then I was taught that I was really bad at Super Hot: Mind Controlled Elite. But it's really great. If you played Super Hot, you now own Super Hot: Mind Controlled Elite because it's just given freely to anyone who bought it. If not, I don't know how much it costs, but you should just go play Super Hot because it's really great and a fun game.
How are you playing? Are you playing it VR? Is it a VR game?
So there's a separate. So Mind Controlled Elite is not in VR because the original game came out and it was not a VR game. Then they made a VR version, which is fantastic and probably my favorite VR thing I've played. But this is just a non VR game, and I played it on PC. And it's great. It's a really fun game. If you're into that, it's weird.
Would you say if you're violent? If you're into violence?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. If you're into watching like pretty polygonal red guys burst into shards, this is your fucking game. I don't know if there's another one that's for you as much as this one is. But yeah, so I've been playing that. I also finally really started digging into Disco Elysium, which is just, I don't even know how to explain it. It's the weirdest RPG I've ever played, where most of your interactions and choices are with 24 personalities that live inside of you that you give points to and help you out in social situations. And your health... So you have your health bar in this game, you basically have 4 points of physical health and 4 points of morale, which if people make fun of you, you might lose some morale. And if you lose all that, you get really fucking bummed out and don't want to do anything, which is great. But you play this detective who has forgotten everything. He literally just wakes up in a hotel, doesn't know why they're there, and then pretty quickly it's revealed that you were over the last 3 days you were supposed to be doing this preliminary investigation on a murder, but instead you just got really fucking drunk and pissed people off. And now your new very straight-laced partner is there to kind of help you conduct the investigation. But it's really great.
Is it a little overwhelming?
I've tried playing this game before. And that was kind of what I got, very much analysis paralysis, kind of going into it. This last time starting it, it was kind of talking to Truman about it too. Is I was just oh, the way I need to play this game is just be I don't need to see everything. I just need to make some choices and stick to them. This is a game that I feel very much rewards you by choosing a type and going all in on that. And it's full of, the writing is just full of hilarious, ridiculous. One of the first things that happened to me in this game was the guy at the hotel's you owe me $130. And one of the choices is fuck you, I'm not paying you. And it's in parentheses it says flee. And you have to pass. The character I built is not a very good physical specimen, and I failed the check for that. So what happened is I ran, and as my character was running away, he turned around and gave him 2 middle fingers, but ended up running into a lady in a wheelchair and damaging themselves. It's bonkers. It's an insane game. You can become there's a lot of really complex philosophies happening, and pretty soon you'd be oh, I'm agreeing with a very big racist right now, and after that conversation, it popped up. It's like, that's one of the other things. Like, as you have these conversations, you have thoughts that you can put into slots, which is basically you put thoughts into the slots that lets your brain like mediate on them over time. And once you've thought about something long enough, it gives you like a stat boost based on that. But one of the things I got was like, you now have a thought that you can equip called the racial problem. And it's like, Jesus Christ, I did just have it like, I was like kind of agreeing with this guy that is like has some really fucked up views. It's really fascinating and really bizarre and interesting, and it's a great game. You should check it out. It's only on PC, but it's very good. That's all I've done.
Sweet. Well, all of you out there, we've got plenty of stuff to keep you busy until we watch Surf Ninjas next week. It's gonna be a riot. But yeah, thanks for joining us. We're gonna sign off a second time because fuck you. This is Tyler McKinley.
Tyler Harris.
Justin Hammer. Goodbye.